Welcome everyone to this webinar. Seeing some folks typing in. We have someone from Montreal. Hello, Marie Noel, and Kathy from Iowa. No problem, Kathy, if you can only stay a little bit, or for anyone else that can't stay for the whole bit. This will be recorded and you can access it later. So I am a registered psychologist, just a little bit about me, and a pro-social matrix consultant and trainer. I'm also a certified yoga instructor, and I'm curious about all things movement related. Before we get into today's webinar on nutritious movement for the busy professional and executive, for a more general webinar on natural movement, you can go to my website, drjuliebeaulac.com, and watch a recording of a previous webinar I did on the lazy person's guide to exercise using natural movement. So it's there. You just have to click on the resources page and it will take you to a guide of that and also to a recording. So feel free to check that out. So I'd like you to take a moment right now, just whatever you're doing, and notice your position. Are you standing? Are you sitting? And how are you standing or sitting? Is it your default position? Is it one of your favorite go-to positions? Perhaps type in what you notice about your position right now. And so while we're talking about natural movement can be defined as anything that the human body does that it would also be doing were it in nature. And so this might be movements like walking, running, climbing, crawling, lifting, carrying, throwing, catching. And many of these we can combine into multiple components of exercise. Now, there's a difference between movement and exercise, and that distinction is important, especially when we're talking about what we're talking about today, so nutritious movement for the busy executive or professional. And so the conveniences of our modern lifestyle has reduced the frequency and type of movements and put the emphasis more on exercise. But all movement matters. So we're not just talking about exercise here. And compared to natural movement, exercise has some limitations. And so routines are often highly specialized, and motions tend to just target a few specific abilities. So when it comes to busy professionals or executives in your day-to-day life, you tend to probably spend a lot of time in meetings, travel, long work days. You know, how many people spend a lot of time emailing or sitting as part of the day? Many of us. And this adds up. So how much of your day would you say, like what percentage of your day would you say that you're sitting? Maybe type in if you have any thoughts on that, and how much of your day are you sitting in the same position? So the idea of nutritious movement, which is a term that Katie Bowman, a biomechanist, uses, is the idea is to move more of you more of the time. That means, you know, the way we move matters. Oh, I'm just noticing here. Dr. Kevin Polk just wrote in saying 2 hours of his time he's sitting. That means lots of other things. I'm imagining lots of time not sitting. Awesome. For many of us, though, we spend a lot of time sitting. And we need to move more often and more of our body. So most of us are not moving enough. And even among the most active of professionals or executives, still sedentary most of the time. So what can we do about that? Well, as I suggested, Katie Bowman refers to movement like nutrients. and that our body needs a variety of these mechanical nutrients. So let's use the idea of walking as an example. So walking is a group or type of movements. If we draw a parallel to walking with food and nutrients in the food, fat is a group of nutrients. We need different types of fat, and not all fats are equally nutritious. One could be malnourished, even if already consuming fat, but not the right type or types, etc. And the same is true for movement. So walking is the type of movement, like fat is a type of nutrient, and we need to get different types of walking. What I mean by this is not just asphalt or even the ground at the same speed or distance, in the same temperature and in the same shoes, but we really need to seek variety and diversity in how we walk to get all the nutrients we need from movement. So variety is really the spice of life here. How many of you out there deliberately and intentionally walk different ways on different terrain, mix it up with this in mind? Feel free to type in to the chat box and let me know. So nutritious movement for busy professionals is beyond going to the gym for an hour. It's about moving more frequently across a day, exercising less, but moving more and being still in different ways. So notice your position now and perhaps shift it. You might even reach your arms out to the side or up above you. Just shift a little bit in how you're sitting. That's movement, and it's incorporating different movements into what you're doing right now, watching a webinar. So there's this tool that I think you might find helpful if you haven't been introduced to it already, called the Matrix. So the Matrix is a tool developed by Dr. Polk that can help us all move more of the time by training psychological flexibility. So this tool is all about becoming more psychologically flexible. So I'd like you right now to, I'm just chuckling as Dr. Polk just typed in that Julie always gets me up and moving during these webinars. It's true, I do always get Dr. Polk up and moving during the webinars, and I'm going to get you moving a little bit more now to demonstrate what the Matrix is all about and how it might be able to help you, or how it will help you, not might, it will help you. And so I'd like you to reach your arms up above you right now, or out to your side, or if that's not doable, move some other part of your body. Pick any part of your body. So I'm going to reach my arms above me. And as I do this, I'd like you all to notice what you see, hear, and experience with your senses as you do this. So you might notice tingling in your arms or your hands as they're above you. You might notice a swaying feeling. What do you see as you look up at your fingers? Notice with all of your senses. And now, lower your hands, lower your arms, or change that body position to whatever it was doing before. Perhaps gently closing your eyes or just relaxing your gaze. Bring to mind that same movement you just did and experience inside of your mind now, experience mentally the experience of that movement. You have that? Gently opening your eyes and bringing your awareness back into this webinar experience. Notice the difference between your actual experience, say, of reaching your arms up, and notice the difference in the experience of imagining or bringing to mind that action, that movement. So the vertical line of the matrix is just that. It is noticing what's going on around you and in your environment, such as through your 5-sense experience, and then noticing your response in the moment. So this noticing, I'm trying to do something different here and it may or may not work. So this noticing here in the middle is the key. So I'm going to ask Dr. Polk if he notices my drawing, if that's visible to folks. I think it probably is. That's showing up for me. So that middle part, the noticing, is key. Oh, I'm jumping ahead here. Okay. So the first step of this matrix, after noticing the difference between what shows up in your mind and what's happening out around you, is who is important to you. So some common things, write in who's important to you, folks, on the chat there. Many people talk about how family or their friends are important to them. You might consider, in the context of this webinar, you might be thinking about your career, work, or colleagues, or making a difference. All those things might be important to you. You might also think of others. Many people talk about their animals. Yeah. Dr. Polk says his dogs in addition to his important people. Absolutely. Is the chat working for folks? So as you consider who's important to you, oh, awesome. So Marie-Noelle mentions that her clients and supervisors are important to her. Absolutely. All sorts of people in our lives are important to us. And what shows up now? And gets in the way of what kind of stuff shows up inside of you? Remembering this bottom part of the matrix is all of the stuff that shows up inside of us. It's in our minds that gets in the way of connecting to our clients, supervisor, colleagues, wife, children, dogs, other important people. Stuff here, this yucky, what we call, let's see if I might not be able to, yucky stuff. My slow writing here, yucky. So yucky stuff like guilt, pressure, stress, the thought of I'm too busy. Who's had that thought? I'm too busy. So all this stuff shows up and might get in the way of connecting to who's important to us. Yeah, including yourself. Now for the action, so the horizontal line, which is all about the moves or the actions we do that others can also see. And so what do you do to move towards who and what's important to you? And what do you do to get away from this yucky stuff? Someone write in that the chat's working. I may have accidentally disabled it. So someone let me know that the chat's working for folks. Maybe Marie-Noelle, if you could write in again, or Kathy or Jennifer. Someone type in and just say, yeah, chat's working. So I'm going to keep talking for now, but I'll press a button in a moment if I don't hear from anyone. And so some of the stuff that we hear typically that folks do when oh yeah, thank you, Marie-Noelle. You sometimes too much concentrated on a task for a long time. Absolutely. So sometimes when we have this thought of I'm too busy or stress, we might then work really long hours or watch TV to kind of just zone out or try to distract ourselves from all this yucky stuff that shows up inside of us. All sorts of things we might do. What about moves towards? So things that we do to help connect us to those important people and things in our life. For moves towards. So what you can do to move toward who's important, even with stress or the thought of I'm too busy in the picture, in terms of in your mind. And so when I was thinking about, in essence, what would be, helpful and what's really workable in the context of a busy professional executive's life, it comes down to essentialism. So much going on. So what might be helpful as moves toward are simplify. So we've been hearing that theme a lot lately. So what might that mean in your life? Well, prioritizing over trying to do it all. Or perhaps putting the big rocks first. And what I mean by that, there's this metaphor, and Dr. Kevin Polk's written in that he loves essentialism, which, yes, I knew that about him. Has anyone else read or considered essentialism and how to apply that to their life with respect to this topic of moving more during the day? Please feel free to chat. In terms of putting the big rocks first, think about what is most important in your day-to-day life. And imagining a vase and putting the big rocks of what's most important in that vase first. Because if we fill in too many little rocks, things that are less important, it's then harder to fit those big rocks in first. Whereas if we put the big rocks in first, whether it be going out for a walk in the morning or spending time with your family or whatever, we can then fit more little rocks around, and we also ensure that those big rocks get in first. That takes scheduling and planning ahead. A really useful concept that Katie Bowman, the biomechanist that I mentioned earlier, talks about is stacking your life. What she means by this is life is busy, so it's important to So what you can do to move toward who's important, even with stress or the thought of I'm too busy in the picture, in terms of in your mind. And so when I was thinking about, in essence, what would be, helpful and what's really workable in the context of a busy professional executive's life, it comes down to essentialism. So much going on. So what might be helpful as moves toward are simplify. So we've been hearing that theme a lot lately. So what might that mean in your life? Well, prioritizing over trying to do it all. Or perhaps putting the big rocks first. And what I mean by that, there's this metaphor, and Dr. Kevin Polk's written in that he loves essentialism, which, yes, I knew that about him. Has anyone else read or considered essentialism and how to apply that to their life with respect to this topic of moving more during the day? Please feel free to chat. In terms of putting the big rocks first, think about what is most important in your day-to-day life. And imagining a vase and putting the big rocks of what's most important in that vase first. Because if we fill in too many little rocks, things that are less important, it's then harder to fit those big rocks in first. Whereas if we put the big rocks in first, whether it be going out for a walk in the morning or spending time with your family or whatever, we can then fit more little rocks around, and we also ensure that those big rocks get in first. That takes scheduling and planning ahead. A really useful concept that Katie Bowman, the biomechanist that I mentioned earlier, talks about is stacking your life. What she means by this is life is busy, so it's important to do to accomplish multiple things simultaneously. So this is different than multitasking. This isn't multitasking, but this is the idea that our life and movement can be integrated, such as integrating time for family and friends with community being met also while moving. And we can find new ways to accomplish what we need to do in ways that meet more of our needs all at one time. And we can do this by including movement. And so as an example, today I took a call I needed to take while going out for a walk along a river in Ottawa. So it was just a short phone call, maybe 15 minutes, but I took it walking outside rather than inside. Other things that we can do, adding more movement nutrients. And everyone, feel free to type in if you have any ideas on how you integrate more movement nutrients into your day-to-day life. We might move more starting off by sitting differently. So even shifting your position as you sit, or by sitting at the edge of our chair rather than using the support of the back of the chair, or by using a standing and dynamic workstation. So it's not just about never sitting or only standing, but about creating more dynamic spaces, both sitting and standing. We might even choose to sit on the floor to read or eat or do other things, making phone calls, as I said, or stretching while we do things or are talking to someone. You can also switch to more minimal footwear and also more flexible, comfortable clothing. And so can you move in the clothes that you're wearing for work? Or are they really tight and constricted such that even going out for a walk would not really be feasible? So these are some ideas to add some more movement into your everyday, including your busy workday. Context and mindset matters. And this is something I talked about in the first webinar on Nutritious Movement. Many believe that it's only the movement in a gym or vigorous exercise that counts, but research has shown time and time again that that is not so. What you do every day and doing these things differently, like taking the stairs more, walking at lunch, reaching and bending for things more often, can have a huge impact. And part of that is changing our mindset. So how we're thinking about things and starting to notice that how we bend over or how we sit, how we move about our day, when we unconsciously notice it as movement, this matters. If you think what you're doing is exercise or that it matters, you will get more of the benefits of doing it. So if you're interested in learning more about nutrition, I highly encourage everyone to check out Katie Bowman's work on her website. She's got lots of great podcasts, blogs, books, probably available at your public library also. And her website's nutritiousmovement.com. You can also check out more resources on my website, drjuliebolac.com. I would like to leave you with the words of moving more of you, more of the time. I welcome any feedback, suggestions, or if you'd like to have a talk like this in the community somewhere, please give me a shout. My website is, as I said, drjuliebolac.com, and my email address and resources are available on there. In addition, the slides from today's talk are posted on the website under resource section or on the homepage, and the recording will also be sent out to you shortly. And Dr. Polk mentioned that he put a link to my site up on the board here. So thank you all for joining this webinar and for sticking with us. Be well.